Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to another episode of SGC Webinars Live. My name is CY and I will be your host tonight. So welcome once again to everybody. And if you're watching this right now, comment below and let us know where you're connecting from, because I think we have a lot of registration coming in, not only from Malaysia, but from other countries as well. So please type in your comments below where you're connecting from. Say hi, introduce yourself to all of our viewers out there. And welcome once again for those of you who have just tuned in. And before I begin, right, I'd just like to do a very, very quick tech check. So can you hear and see us clearly? If you can hear us and if you can see us clearly, can you type in the comments section below yes? So type yes if you could hear us clearly. If you're not hearing us, if you're not seeing us clearly, it's probably because you are not connecting from a place that has a very strong internet connection. So I will encourage you to move to another side or to move to another place that has a stronger connection. Then you have a better viewing experience. So if you could hear us and if you could see us clearly, type yes. So I see some comments coming in. Sonia, welcome. We have Win Wong as well. HP Link, Karen, Amira, hello. Kevin, Nadia Chong, Ruben as well. Who else? Who else is here? Ken is here. Maziana, Lo, another one from Ken. Amira, Vivian is here as well. So welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode. So the SGC webinar series is brought to you by Segi Group of Colleges, and tonight we have a very, very special guest, right? But before we jump into the webinar tonight, are you guys ready? So if you're ready, type I'm ready in the comments section below, and then we will move forward, right? Let me just say hi to more people. We have Genius Mulia who's here, Lawrence Ong, Michael, Hui En, Hui Ying as well, right? Keith, Karen says, I'm ready. So if you guys are ready, let us jump to the topic tonight. So tonight, we have the privilege of inviting Anja Chong to share about her entrepreneur's journey. Now, before I bring on Anja, I would just like to do a very, very brief introduction about Anja. So Anja is featured in Forbes Magazine's 30 Under 30, and she is known as the Ice Queen of Malaysia, where she has actually won 4 gold medals, in speed skating in the SEA Games. So apart from being a very successful athlete, she is also the founder of Alo Potentia, and she's going to share with us today her journey as an entrepreneur as well. And I guess there are a lot of students, and there are a lot of students out there who are watching this, who wants to be an entrepreneur while you're studying and you have no idea where to start. So if you're watching this, this is the right webinar for you. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Anja to say hi to everybody. Hello, Anja.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? I know that with everything and the lockdown coming back, I really appreciate everyone taking the time up to be here with me. I know time is very precious to all of us. So thank you very much for being here. And thank you, CY, for having me.
Thank you. So thank you once again, Anja, for joining us. And the floor is yours.
Okay, great. So I thought in the beginning, I would start a little bit by introducing myself. So like CY introduced to you, I started out as an athlete, 4-time SEA Games gold medalist in short track speed skating, but also a founder of Alo Potentia. And I founded my company a month after SEA Games in 2019, and it's a female-focused e-commerce company that sells detachable crossbody wallet phone cases. So for us, it was really important to create a company that was built on, empowering women, that was female-focused. And so Alo Potentia is actually Latin, and what it means is I am capable. So Alo in Latin means support, and Potentia means potential, so to support your potential. And for us, it was very important to differentiate ourselves in the market, whether that was through having a different product. So for example, with our product, not only is it a phone case, it's also a wallet, so it stores all your cards and your cash, as well as having a crossbody strap to be able to put on your keys, RFID protected, so that it protects against RFID theft and RFID skimming for your credit cards, and also vegan leather, because to me it was really important not only to make an impact within, you know, women and to support women, but also an impact into the environment. So, you know, I think with creating a brand, a lot of people start and, you know, for example, you look at Apple, which I think is a great example of, you know, Apple's not at the forefront of their product. They don't, you know, create the best product first. What they are really the best in the world at is creating more than just a brand, but a feeling. So for me, that was really important as well. What people need to remember is that people don't buy into a product because of the product itself. You know, we as humans are very emotion-based and emotion-driven, right? So it's not just about buying, you know, a phone case, or, you know, it's not just about buying an item of clothing or a bag. People are really buying into that emotion and that feeling. What does having your product make them feel? What do? You know, they see a certain person that carries a certain bag, and it makes them feel like they can be the same person who carries that bag as well. Or, you know, it means that they mark a certain lifestyle, or it makes them feel confident. So to remember that, you know, when you are building your brand, it is beyond your brand. You're trying to create an emotion with that, whether that's security, whether that's maybe finances or financial wealth. Really think about what your vision and mission is, and how will you be just beyond your product and service offering. So for me, I really built it to support you. So I built this phone case for, you know, the people that don't just want to, you know, be a female that is, you know, on the go, that has easy access, you know, to their phone, and also to make an impact to the environment. So for me, you know, I think it's really interesting in this day and age where, you know, sustainability is something that's a really hot topic word. It's really important. It's really important to me. But beyond that, also, I think at the moment, you know, consumers are so informed. There's so much information out there on the website. It's so easy to Google, whether that's Googling the next best product, or even to understand the origins. You know, people want to know, you know, where your product's being made, what is the environmental impact. And so for us, transparency was also very important, to say, look, you know, we are a small company. We want to be sustainable. We're currently not perfect and we're not doing everything, but this is what we are doing. This is what we're doing currently, and this is how we can improve. So for us, obviously, again, we're not perfect. At the end of the day, yes, it is a new product. So it's not sustainability in the sense that it's not a reused product. You know, it is still, you know, using plastic, it's still using materials, but we are 24 times less impact than the alternative, which is using animal leather. So for us, it was important to not just create a high quality product. And I think at the moment, the association with sustainability is, okay, well, if I want to be sustainable, then I have to buy the next best product, right? But here we wanted to be an industry leader and to show that, okay, we can be fashionable, we can be great, as well as being sustainable. So although we are a sustainable brand and a sustainable product, you don't have to give up all the other things as well. We just so happen to be sustainable. So we did that not only through our materials, but also with trying to reduce as much excessive packaging as possible, cutting out excessive plastic, and also the weights of the items, because obviously CO2 emission is very important. And, you know, a lot of people talk about, say, you know, not completely wanting to get rid of plastic or items and to reduce packaging, have reusable packaging in terms of glass and stuff like that. But glass is actually not very sustainable in a lot of cases because it's so heavy. So the CO2 emissions it takes to be shipping all that product back and forth actually makes it a lot less sustainable. So really informing our customer and really not just looking at things on the face of it, but really diving deep and really understanding your product and researching it.
And this is actually, while you are at this slide, when you talk about being sustainable in terms of the materials that you use, how we can be more environmentally friendly, I would like to ask you, coming from a business perspective, recently with the pandemic, a lot of businesses are affected, big and small. My question to you would be, how has the COVID-19 virus affected your business, and how are you and your company adapting to the pandemic?
So I think for us, coronavirus is such a big hot topic. And so with that, I wanted to pose a question of how have these crazy times slowed you down? And I don't ask if, I ask how, because I think it's important to remember that everybody is struggling in this time, whether that's with job security or maybe with layoffs, finding jobs, or maybe it's your emotional well-being or your health. Whatever it is, these times have affected every single one of us. But I also think that this is a great time to turn the corner. And it's a great time for us to create our comeback story and have massive success. So not only that, but it's also understanding that, with everything, there's always an opportunity. So for example, with the current situations, yes, there's reduced jobs, but maybe this means, okay, maybe this is a chance for me, an opportunity for me to now build on and create something that maybe I wouldn't have had the courage to have done before. It also means that you have so many more people that are available. All of a sudden, people are being more resourceful. And there are also a lot of problems at the moment. And, as an entrepreneur, lots of problems is great, because what you want to do is have lots of solutions to those problems.
Thank you. So the next question that I want to ask you is, how do you make the transition from being an athlete to an entrepreneur?
So for me, I think I'll talk a little bit about my journey, because I think it's a little bit of a unique one, which I think is really interesting, because a lot of people feel as though, they see these success stories, they see these unicorns, they see these huge founders, and, they forget that things are not an overnight success. And they forget that, yes, whether it's a specific education in a related field or whatever is always, great, or whether maybe it's, having prior experience in a certain company in a related field, those things are all great, but they're not necessary. So for me, I went to the University of Nottingham and I had a law degree. I had Asian parents, and so they said, you can go off and you can pursue your athletic career if you want to, but you first have to get a degree. So that's what I did. And 2 weeks later, I went to Korea. I then trained in Korea for almost 2 years, leading up to the 2017 SEA Games. And that was when, I got my gold medals. And because of a lot of emotional abuse that was going on at the time, a lot of politics, I stepped away from the sport. And I think this was a really useful time for me, and it was definitely a hard time. But I think one of the foundations as an entrepreneur is building grit and resilience. A lot of people, they see the finished product, they see all the glamour that comes with the lifestyle, and they see people, who again have hit the unicorns and they live this big lavish lifestyle. And entrepreneurship has become really trendy. And what people don't realize is that behind all that facade is just a lot of hard work, a lot of failure. And so it's really important to have resilience and to really know how to get through that hardship, because I can guarantee you that, there's one similarity in all entrepreneurs, and that is that it will be hard and that you will fail multiple times. And so, yeah, I went into the financial industry and I worked, and then I missed the sport and I wanted to come back. So I went back for a year in the lead up to the SEA Games in 2019. And I was actually working part-time remotely at the time, but that was also where I built Alo Potentia. And it was really built because I think like many of us, I was walking around with my phone in my hand all the time, and I was like, okay, this is so silly. I need to come up with a solution because I'm always holding my phone in my hand. And even if I had a bag or a pocket, I was just holding it in my hand anyways. So I wanted to create a solution where it was just something that I was looking for and I wanted myself. And so, yeah, a month after I competed at the SEA Games, we launched, and the rest, I guess, is history.
Thank you for sharing. So I would just like to invite you to elaborate a little bit on that journey of yours. What do you think were some of the lessons that you have learned, along your journey of coming from being an athlete to being an entrepreneur? What were some of the lessons that you have learned?
Mm-hmm. I mean, so I'll put up a quote, and I think this is really great, and it's one of my favorites, just because I think it's so important for us to remember that, at the end of the day, we have the chance to decide what we want to make. So it's your loss. It's your life. It's your loss, your gain. So nothing changes the fact that you get to decide whether you want to work hard, whether you want to overcome the failure, whether you want to go out and get the resources for you. All of that is within your control. It's really just about going out there and taking the step. So we think with a lot of people, a huge worry is obviously taking the plunge. I mean, it takes a lot of courage, and you have to overcome a lot of fears, right? You're stepping up into, an unknown, and it's something that is really terrifying because there's really no solid ground and there is no certainty. And I think something that a lot of people struggle with is they always say, okay, well, I've done this and I feel like it's too late for me. Maybe if I'd started earlier, maybe if I had formal education in that field or prior experience. And I guess what I would say to that is just it's never too late to start. So you can always start over and you can get to where you want to go. It's never too late. You just need to put in the effort and the time.
Thank you. So we also have a lot of students who are watching with us live right now that wants to start the entrepreneurship journey, and they don't know where to start. And I think you have a lot to share because you started in an entirely different industry. So just like the slide that you are showing right now. So can you elaborate on that?
So I think, first of all, it's understanding that it does take courage. That's number one. Of course it's hard, and of course it's scary. And like I said, one of the great things about the times right now is that we have a lot of problems. And with that comes a lot of potential solutions. So for me, my idea really came from a necessity or a need. I was looking for a product and I just couldn't find it. So I decided to make it myself. And I think that is what happens for a lot of people. You don't go out there thinking, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to create a product. Now let's see what we can find. And while brainstorming is good, it's really understanding what do you and other people need. And I think with a lot of people, it's also really intimidating because it's so uncertain. And for me, it was really important to build my own company, but also to really research and learn from the ground up and understand every single step. So that was from, accounting to graphic design to web design to understanding, the legalities, understanding the business models, what were the different marketing strategies, and really understand every single step of that process. Because whether it was starting a small, bootstrap company to maybe hopefully one day we all wish to, build these great, big, lasting and enduring brands and companies. And even if you have the resources, to hire a great big team, it's still so important for you to start from the ground up and really understand every single part of your business. Yes, you might not be an expert in every single field, but you do need to understand it. So you can oversee, you can make sure people are doing the right things, and just so you have an idea of every part of your business. And, with that, I think a lot of people get scared because they think, oh, well, I don't know where to start. But it's just remembering that we are so privileged to be in a generation where we really have all the resources at our fingertips. Whether, that's like Googling to research things, books, podcasts, webinars like we do now, with every step of your journey or whatever you want to take, whether that's online learning, like things like Coursera and Skillshare, and understanding that there are no stupid questions. So for example, when I first started, I would Google things like online marketing 101. And that may seem really basic and really trivial, but it just helps to start in that starting block and to write out a list of questions. Okay, so for example, if this is marketing or accounting, what do I not know? What do I need to figure out? What are the answers that I have? If I was speaking to an expert or whatever, and like, explain it to me. I understand, what are the different types of marketing and, which is better on a cost scale, things like that. Type out all those questions and then use yourself as a resource to go out and answer those questions. And with that, I would also say for me, it was really important to pick somebody in the industry that you're trying to go into, what you're trying to achieve, and find that person that has already done it, that has made it, that has accomplished where you want to go, and emulate them. And I think where that is really great is that it's basically a shortcut to success. Not that there's ever a shortcut per se. It is still going to be a hard and difficult road, but just they have figured out the way to get there. They've been through their entire lives this process. And one way to help that process is to copy and emulate all the steps that they've taken. Read the resources they have out there, read their journey, understand how they failed and succeeded, and look at all the resources that they've put out there or the resources that they use to get out there. And I think also the other thing that I have learned a lot for me that was really important was to keep costs low and really iterate. Because at the end of the day, whatever you think will be a great product, whatever you think will be the perfect market fit, you've hit the J curve, it's gone viral, that's great. At the end of the day, you will never know exactly what product, what service, what finished best product until you go through that process. And so to really just start with a bare minimum, keep costs as low as possible, really bootstrap, and just keep market testing until you get it right.
Thank you. And as you are sharing this, right? Thank you very much for sharing all of these tips. I actually have just received a WhatsApp message from one of my friends who is watching this. And he is asking, if you were to dilute, right, all of the lessons that you have done, and if you were to think about just one secret recipe towards your success, what would it be?
I think this is across the board if you ask anyone. The secret to success is failure. And this is something that's really important as an entrepreneur. And, if you speak to a lot of the VCs, angel investors, and you ask them, what do you think is the number one thing that you look at when you're investing? They always say the founder. And when you ask them, okay, what is it about the founder? They always say a founder that has failed, hopefully multiple times. Because what happens when you fail a lot is you figure out what you've done wrong, how to problem solve, and how to succeed. But also, very importantly, you learn to have grit and resilience. And if this is an industry that you're thinking of going into, let me tell you, you're going to fail multiple times. There's that saying, with Thomas Edison that, if he hadn't tried the 99th, the 100th time, if he had stopped at the 99th time, we might not have light. And when you just think about it like that, it's so crazy to think. And just remembering that a lot of times you're so much closer to success than you think you are. You just need to keep trying and try that extra step and just keep reiterating. So, something's not working. Okay, let's figure out and let's pivot. What can we do? How can we pivot? How can we change certain, cost structures, different models? What can we learn more? How can we test? And I think what you'll learn with that also is that, I know that this industry is very trendy at the moment, but it is a lot of hard work. And it's a lot harder than people think it is. So I remember even for me, when I was starting off, I would hit a certain problem and I'd be like, okay, yep, this is a hard problem. I get it. Let's move through it. And then that same problem would crop up a second time, a third time, a fourth time. And I was thinking, this is insane. Like I've already dealt with this. How there's so many things that are constantly cropping up in the same area. And it taught me a lot, first of all, patience, a lot of patience, and that at the end of the day, things really just take time. And, even if you have the perfect product or service, and I'm not sure there is a perfect product or service, but even then, things take time. You just need to hit that sweet spot where, things go viral, or for whatever reason, it just hits and it explodes. And until that, you just have to wait and really, wait that time out and take that time. And, the hardest, road to do when you're an entrepreneur and you've given your all into something, you put your blood, sweat, and tears, is to be patient and to wait that time out because you've given all of yourself into it. And so, I think if what you want to do is come into this industry, definitely think about it twice, a third time, a fourth time, because it's not an easy road. And, I know it's very glamorized and it's very easy to see things as an overnight success, but there are no overnight successes. It is a hard road for everybody. It's just that you see that finished product.
Thank you for sharing. And yeah, I agree. Entrepreneurship it's a very, very long and sometimes lonely, and it's not going to be an easy route. So what are some of the day-to-day things that you do to keep yourself at your best?
I mean, so I think for me, I think the number one thing, first of all, when I'm starting in entrepreneurship, is just understanding that a lot of times you feel like you have to take this big step, this big leap. And I would say that I know there's a lot of want towards moving towards like getting this unicorn and hitting it big and, hitting the jackpot, so to say. But I think really the focus at the moment in the industry is shifting towards what you would call these rhinoceros companies, which is really bootstrapping, working hard, starting small, building products and services that are creating and generating revenue, and then building it on from there and expanding, and then moving on and getting investors. And, with that, what is really important is understanding that, you are your resource. Whether that is linking up, with your friends, whether you're in school, there's so many people out there right now that are so like-minded, that are driven, that are smart around you, or also in this time right now with coronavirus, there are so many people out there that are so much willing to take that step. Maybe they were in a job before and they aren't now. And with understanding that you're your biggest resource, it's also understanding that you need to be your best self. People are investing in you as a founder, and you are your company. So what that means is that you need to show up as your best self every day in order for your company to be its best every day. So some things that I do, for me, it's really important to create a morning routine. I start every day with a to-do list. I've written out a list of affirmations to myself, and I read that to myself every day. It can be anything that's specific to you, but something that empowers you, that motivates you, that drives you, and also writing a to-do list of what you want to get done in your day. And when I say to-do list, get really specific. So it's not just, okay, I want to fix our marketing budget. How? Write down very specifically, what are the exact steps that you're going to take? What do you really need to figure out in order to get that thing done? And also for me, something that's really important is meditating and, practicing gratitude. I think at the end of the day, there's so much going on that it's very easy, especially as an entrepreneur, to feel disheartened, to feel run down, to feel overwhelmed. It is overwhelming, especially for a lot of people that are bootstrapping. Maybe they don't have a job, maybe they don't have a solid income stream. It is overwhelming. It is tough. There are times you're going to feel stressed. It is hard work and it is a grind. So to take that time to pause. Use meditate as a form of focus and also self-control, but also gratitude, because I think sometimes we forget to stop and really appreciate what we do have, appreciate what is going right. And I think when you start to appreciate what you do have, you'll find that so much more comes into your life. There'll be so much less lack because you start to see the abundance that is around you. And that is so important and so key to anything that you do. What's really, really powerful about gratitude, it's the one emotion that you can't feel a correlating negative emotion at the same time. You could be, happy, and then you could still feel, wistful or sad or mad, but you can't feel grateful, truly grateful, as well as feel angry or mad. And so to do that and to do gratitude stacking is so important. And also to start with one small change. I think a lot of the times it's so overwhelming. You want to climb this mountain, you want to conquer it. And then a lot of times people get bogged down with all these things that they have to do. And it is a big hurdle to face. And so starting with, having these big goals and these big dreams and writing them out, that is so important. But also these small ones. What are the small steps that you're going to take? Maybe it's a quarterly goal, maybe it's a monthly goal, whatever it is, as well as your yearly, what is your 5-year, 10-year goal that you also want to achieve? And also not just to write them down, but to visualize them and feel them. So what does it feel like when I have achieved this goal? What does it feel like when, I've completed this, or I've gotten a certain amount of funding, or, I've gotten a certain revenue or profit scheme that I want to. And I think that's also really important. So for me, maybe I'll read out what my affirmations are, just to share it with all of you as well. So today is a new day. Today I'm blessed with the opportunity to go after my dreams, grow, and fill my life with love, grace, happiness, peace, dedication, drive, commitment, productivity, abundance, power, knowledge, and strength. I have the power to lead myself in any direction I wish and accomplish whatever I set my mind to. I will give power to the things that lift me up and bring me joy. Where my attention goes, my focus and energy flows. I will only focus on what I want, what I can control, and what I will achieve. I am happy. I am wealthy, I am worthy, I am powerful, I am secure, I am grateful, I am loved, I am blessed. Today is my day. So this is a to-do list that I like to start off my day with. And as you can see, there's a section that says, today I am grateful for. So with that, I would like everyone to type in a word today, or it can be a stream or paragraph of things that you are grateful for today. So that everyone could do that now. What are you grateful for? It could be something small. It could be something as simple as, I know a lot of times people say, well, life is hard today. I'm not grateful. I'm not grateful for anything. Everything in my life is going wrong. Okay, fine. So you start with something small. Maybe today I'm just grateful that the sun came up again, or I'm grateful that the sky is blue. And you might even think, look, I don't even really believe it. Actually, I don't really care if the sun comes up. I don't really care if the sky is blue today. And that's also fine. You start with that and you just go, okay, well, let's just pretend. I'm going to pretend to write down a list of things I'm grateful for. And what you'll notice is that as you keep doing these things over and over again, after a while, you'll start to actually feel grateful. And then you can move into maybe things that are a little bit bigger and you're genuinely grateful for. Maybe it's, I'm grateful for certain people in my life, having the opportunity. And, or maybe it's also grateful for the tough times you've had. And I think that's something for me that's really interesting that I think not a lot of people understand, is that it's not just that, but I'm also grateful for the people that have wronged me. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have the sense of forgiveness, of patience, of love if they hadn't acted that way. or, you know, for perhaps it is the certain difficulties that have cropped up, whether maybe that is, you know, certain challenges you faced or certain failures and setbacks. You know, like I said, I think the biggest thing in any entrepreneur's journey is really your failures. You're only as strong as your biggest failures. And what I think is really interesting is there's this new trend going around about their failure CV, and people are writing down, you know, and building up their failure CV. So what is that? So for example, I've applied for, you know, 40 jobs and gotten rejected, and I've, you know, done these things. And it's so great to build these things up, because actually that's so much more impressive than what your accomplishments are. And you're only as successful as your accomplishments.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So at this point, right, Anja, one of the questions that we always get from a lot of our students, because in SEGI, we have a club called the Aspiring Entrepreneurs Club, where we groom and where we help our students if they want to become an entrepreneur, right? So it's like an incubator sort of stuff. And one of the questions that always pop up from our students is, how can they manage their time, you know, being a student and being an entrepreneur at the same time? So what would be your advice to them in terms of time management?
So it's really interesting, because I know a lot of people who are founders, but more importantly in the VC investing space. And the resounding thing that I've heard from them is that the trend is really skewing away from unicorns, finding unicorns, towards creating these rhinoceroses. So with that is really creating these enduring, strong brands, and, you know, bootstrapping, building a product or service, creating revenue, and then building and expanding from that. So I think it's really interesting to, you know, see that and know that and understand that, you know, even for me, I was working part-time, I was still being an athlete full-time. You don't have to quit your job or quit school in order to build your company. You know, you can do it on the side, you can bootstrap, you don't have to have huge funding pools. You know, you can start with just, you know, your friends and family, or you can even just start with the savings that you have. You know, for me as well, you know, I really just saved my money, and then I just use that to bootstrap, build my company, and then move from there. So, you know, you don't need it all. You don't have to create a perfect product or service. In fact, you know, I think it's almost better to start right away. You know, there's the 80-20 Pareto principle, and it just says, you know, start small. And, you know, if you had created the perfect product, you've almost moved too late. You know, you need to be putting yourself, your product or service into the market, and then constantly iterating, market testing, and then growing and expanding from there.
Thank you. So before we move on to the Q&A session, because we've come to almost the end of today's webinar, how can people find out more about you and your business, Anja?
Okay, so before I say that, first of all, I just want to, you know, support all the fellow entrepreneurs out there. I know how hard it is. It is a grind and it is a struggle. And also just to, you know, give everyone a pat on the back to upskilling and investing in themselves, because you are the most valuable asset you have. So for that, I have a 50% discount code. So you can go to www.alopotentia.com. And if you type in the code SEGI50, you'll get a 50% discount code off. And yeah, if you want to find out more, if you have any questions, anything that you want to ask, feel free to reach out to me at Anja Chong or at Alo Potentia on Instagram, or find us on our website, which is www.alopotentia.com.
Thank you, Anja. So now we have moved to the Q&A section. So admin, could you just put up the Q&A slide real quick? So for those of you who are watching out there, if you have some questions, please, you may begin to type them in the comments section below. I think we have received some questions as well, you know, as we go through the session. So if we could pull up some of the questions. Admin. Okay, so the first question is from Amira, and she asked some of the students might be worried about how they can get enough capital to start a business. Would you mind to share a piece of advice?
So I totally understand, and I think this is probably what people feel like is the biggest barrier to entry. I know for me, it was a huge concern. It was definitely something that I was, spending a lot of time on. For me, I used my savings. And like I said, that's where I think it's really important to really keep costs low in the beginning. It's very easy to get wrapped up in wanting to build a great website or, whether it's packaging, whether it's your product or your service. And just remembering to keep costs as low as possible. So I know for me also that, don't peg it on how much, demand you think you're going to be. Just remember that throughout the process, you're going to be constantly reiterating. So build enough for the first pool. And then whatever you think that amount will be, cut that back a bit. And then just remember that it's always a great thing to have too much demand, but not too much supply. And anyways, throughout the process, so for example, something little is, for example, for me, like with packaging, right? I tried to estimate the amount of packaging that I would need. And while, that was a great estimation, it's also understanding that, okay, but there's now that I know better, there are so many things that I would do and change. So while it's a good estimation, now, if, I had cut that into a small amount to a low cost, I would be able to reiterate and do something even better than I've done so far. So definitely to keep costs low, definitely to bootstrap, use as much resources as possible, whether that's people, the people around you, because they're the people that understand you and are most likely to invest in you.
Thank you. And while we're talking about the topic of capital, managing resources is also a huge part of how you can manage your capital, right? So one of the most important traits of being a startup entrepreneur is the ability to be resourceful. And I always believe that being resourceful is a skill that you learn over time. So could you share with us a little bit about how you build your resourcefulness, especially when you are first starting out?
So I think the first thing is just to remember that as an entrepreneur, you can't have an ego. You need to ask a lot of questions and just be prepared to be, the dumbest person in the room, whether it's to go up to somebody and be like, how did you do this? Why do you do this? Or I've hit a certain problem, like, could you give me advice? I was very lucky where I saw a lot of great people and great founders, and I said, look, would you be my mentor? And I would just reach out to them and say, look, whether it's, an hour a month, I come to you with certain things, and if you could guide me and make it easy for them. Because a lot of times, people know how hard it is and they want to help. They want to share their resources. They want to share their network and their connections as much as possible. But make it as easy as it is for them. Don't just say, oh, will you, for example, be my mentor? These people are also busy, so value their time. And just know that people want to help as much as possible. Be as resourceful as you can, whether that's with people, whether that's, on the internet, and with like the kind of information that you can find, the things that you can find. I think a lot of times you can do things a lot cheaper than you want to. So for example, for me, I learned graphic design and how to build a website. It's such an easy way to cut costs. And there's so much information out there to learn that information. Or, same with marketing and accounting. I really learned every single aspect. And that also saved me a lot of money rather than hiring extra people, outsourcing, paying for certain things.
Thank you. Thank you for answering the question. Do we have the next question? Admin, if you could pull it out. The next question is from Ruben. How long did you take to achieve your first success?
I think, success is such a difficult question, because what really is success? And I would say I still haven't hit my first success. I think, it's all a journey. I'm still learning, but hopefully I hope to fail upwards. And by that, what I just mean is that, I think there's no such thing as a failure per se, if you learn from it. So as long as I've learned something from everything, It's building me to be a better, hopefully future founder of, to build a better company, to learn more, to know more, to be more humble, to ask more questions, find more people that are better than what they do. For me, it's always important to, be the dumbest person in the room, because if I'm the youngest and dumbest person in the room, I only have so much to learn.
Thank you. The next question, and I think this is the last question for tonight, is a question from Roslan. Anja, how do you see yourself in the next 5 years, and what's your future plan? And I thought this is a very good question to sort of close tonight's session.
I think for me, and as an entrepreneur, and I think as a lot of people, what I've really learned is that life is full of uncertainty, and this is something I really struggle with. I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with, especially with coronavirus. If nothing else, the prevailing theme at the moment is uncertainty. And so I don't know where I will be in 5 years. I know that it's important for me, like I said, to fail upwards, to constantly be growing, to be in positions where I constantly have growth opportunity. And I know that for me at the moment, I'm not really looking at, financial gratification. I don't necessarily want that big overnight success yet, because I think with a lot of people, there are a lot of founders even that they have hit that. And they just so happen to be lucky and hit that, and they don't really know how they got there. And so then they're sitting and they're coasting, or there are companies that end up for whatever reason, maybe if it's through network or by chance, getting huge amounts of funding and actually having a failed product and not knowing what to do with that. So for me, it's really important to always be in a position of a growth opportunity. I'm still young, and I think a lot of people out there are still very young. And to not get bogged down by all the successes, all the achievements and the accomplishments that they want to get, but really to put themselves in situations where they're constantly upskilling, constantly investing in themselves, and constantly being in a growth opportunity where they can grow, where they can learn, where they can expand their horizons.
Thank you very much for sharing, Anja. So I guess that concludes our Q&A session tonight. And so before we close tonight's session, right, Anja, I just have this one final question that I want to ask you, and I guess a lot of the audience would be interested to hear from you as well. And that is, if we were to jump on a time machine and we were to fly back to a time when you just started your entrepreneurship journey, what would be the advice that you would give to yourself?
I think it's definitely to have patience. Just remember that this journey takes time, and I know that that's hard, and that's why I really think that there is really nothing wrong with bootstrapping and starting small, because the best resource you have as an entrepreneur is time. For it to hit the J curve and hit and go viral and just fit that perfect market fit, it just takes patience and time. So to understand that this is a tough journey, I know it's hard out there, and I know it gets lonely, because a lot of times you're either by yourself. People don't understand it. People don't understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur, how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, to work by yourself, to be up with all these late hours, and to be so emotionally attached and involved to something. It's really like your baby. So just give yourself time, be kind and patient to yourself, and just really understand that it takes hard work, and it really takes resilience and grit. And if you just keep growing through the steps, you keep going through the grind, and eventually you will get there. So just have patience and time. And yeah, if any of you have any more questions that we haven't answered, please feel free to reach out to me, message me on Instagram. I try to respond to everybody. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I hope that at the very least that everybody was supposed to go with one takeaway. And like I said before, if it's something you haven't done, do look at the to-do list and the affirmations. It might be maybe you want to tweak and change a few things, but if you do, it is a free downloadable. So just go to www.alopotentia.com, and you can find it there, and you can download our template. And If that's useful for you, I hope you share it and pass it along. And yeah, we're all in this together.
Yeah, and if you're interested in the free template, it is also available in the description below or above, depending on where you're watching this video from. So please go on to the description, click on the link, and you'll be able to download the template. So thank you very much once again, Anja, for joining us. And for those of you who are watching this, please also join us in thanking Anja for joining us tonight by typing your words of gratitude, your words of thanks in the comments section below. And yeah, thank you very much, Anja.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to, hear me. And yeah, just remember that I know this is a tough journey, but you will get there. And just have faith and keep going.
Thank you. So for those of you who are staying with us, who stayed with us until the very end, on behalf of the Segi Group of Colleges webinar team, we would like to thank you for joining. And I would also like to take this opportunity to encourage you to share this live webinar, or to share this webinar with your friends and family whom you think may find this the information that we presented beneficial. So if you're watching this on YouTube especially, copy the URL and send it to as many people as you can, right? And if you're watching this on Facebook, to tag your friends as well. So until next time, thank you. Please take care, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye bye and good night.